everybody. Welcome to the Friday edition of the NBA Slate Starter Podcast. I'm Eric, joined with my buddy Ryan as we break down the 7-game NBA DFS slate on DraftKings and Fanduel. This slate looks a lot different here on Thursday night than what it looked like, 5 minutes before lock, 10 minutes before lock. And then after lock, we get DeMar DeRozan, the main piece of the Spurs, get ruled out. What a crazy, crazy slate for a Thursday. Rinpak, how did you do?
Yeah, it was definitely crazy for sure. We got dealt with George Hill starting in the lineup. I was overexposed to that. Obviously, easy to say that once the results turned out the way they did. I ended up being overexposed to a guy like Devin Vassell with the DeMar DeRozan news, just because 96 minutes of the Spurs rotation minutes, not 96, around 76 minutes opened up with no DeJounte Murray and no DeMar DeRozan. And you had to play some of them. Derek White is being sensational right now. As we were speaking, I believe he's the third highest scoring player on the slate. So he's been great, but everyone else slowly getting there. Zion Williamson was a massive disappointment as New Orleans blew the doors off of the Orlando Magic. Not even Mickey Mouse could save them. And Mo Bamba. I was excited for some Mo Bamba today. Shout out to Shaq West. And Mo Bamba showed why he was a lottery pick in blowout run.
Yeah, he's a fun basketball player to watch. Very easy to cheat for Mo Bamba. Nobody wants to hear me sing, so what you should do to stop me from singing ever again is get down to that bottom bar, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all the other content at Awesemo is going live. We are sponsored today, as we always are, by MonkeyKnifeFight.com. Monkey Knife Fight, where you can go play some prop-based games, go try your hand at a couple of the NBA goodies that they have, the PGA goodies that they have, UFC on Saturday. They have so many great prop-based games, and if you use some of the information that we have from Awesemo, from the Awesemo Plus package, use some of those projections to help you make informed decisions over on MonkeyKnifeFight.com. Go stop guessing, start winning, and do it over at our friends at MonkeyKnifeFight.com. Rinpak, you ready to get going, my dude?
Let's ride.
All right, going to the top end here. Point guard, Russell Westbrook. I'm going to start on Fanduel today because I'm feeling real frisky. It's Fanduel Friday. Fanduel Friday, everybody. Russell Westbrook going into OKC, $11,000. They have fans, so I'm sure they'll be cheering for Russell Westbrook. A little bit of a homecoming. They should Washington's been playing pretty good in general, but $11K for him. Steph Curry, $10,000, coming off of probably the dud of all duds that people did not see coming. I guess that's kind of a Kelly Oubre effect. That's kind of a just not the greatest shooting performance effect. It's kind of ironic, too, because he had 8 assists and 7 boards, and that's kind of the stuff you don't normally get from him, but only 18 points. Oopsie. And then Kyrie Irving, 9,700. It sounds like they're going to be. Kevin Durant, I believe, is probably not going to play. He's questionable right here on the FanDuel injury report, but I'd say that's probably closer to doubtful, but I don't want to say anything here. Kyrie Irving, 9,700, going against Boston. He hates them. Talk about the top end of point guard.
Yeah, top end of point guard. Obviously, 7-game slate. Similar size to this one. I believe today was a 6. Yep, today was a 6. On to 7 tomorrow. Russ Westbrook, obviously 11K versus OKC. He played OKC 2 games ago. He put up 59.25 fantasy points on DraftKings. It's definitely in play over there on FanDuel when we were at the roster too. Could be the highest scoring player on the slate and where you're going to need him at that point. And he put up 52.7 there. Obviously, Russ obviously racks up those turnovers, but man, those rebounds, those assists, the shot attempts are there. If he shoots more efficiently, he'd be getting 60 plus over there on FanDuel. So definitely in play. Kyrie Irving is going to come down to what happens with Kevin Durant. I knew there was some news with Kevin Durant that came out earlier today. I don't recall what it was, but I believe Durant is upgraded to questionable.
Yep,
and
I see
it's
questionable.
Yeah, Steve Nash said it's very possible he'd return Friday or Saturday. So it's a matchup against Boston. Kyrie taking on Boston, priced at 10-1. We got to have interest in him if there's no KD for sure. Obviously, that would help him. He's not out of play if KD were to play, but you definitely would be very excited to take chances on Kyrie Irving without Kevin Durant on both sides, 9-7 and 10-1 on FanDuel and DraftKings. I think we go back to Steph Curry. I know he burned everyone. Played Denver on the 12th of April, put up 69, and just like the midst of that torrid stretch he went on, I have no issues going back to Steph. The shot attempts are still there. He just had a bad shooting night. 2 of 14 from Steph is uncharacteristic. and he could go 13 or 14 tomorrow. It's just who Steph is. You want to have a piece of Steph whenever he's on the slate. And I think Dame Lillard needs to be mentioned against Memphis. $9,500 on DraftKings, $8,700 Dame Lillard over there on FanDuel. I know he has not been good with the insertion of CJ McCollum. He battled through an injury, and I think he should bounce back against this Memphis team. $8,700 feels a little too low, right? Don't you think for Dame Lillard at that price tag?
Yeah, I think he was actually even lower. I think he was $8,600 last game out against Denver for their last game, 2 days ago? So 8,700. Ooh, yeah, it's not much is changing there. I think that's definitely a spot to be going to. What I find interesting, so I was curious what was going to happen with these point guards, specifically Brandon Goodwin. FanDuel did a great job, put him up to 5K. On DraftKings, Trae Young's going to be out. Brandon Goodwin is 3,400. He is going to be your chalkiest point guard of the entire slate, all the way down there at that bottom end. I don't really see any way around it. He's going to be playing big minutes. We saw him play 37 minutes back-to-back games when Trae Young was out before. Now he's walking into the starting point guard role. I know it's going to be a 7-gamer. It's not like a gigantic 12-gamer like we had where we could find other pivots. I mean, Brandon Goodwin's close. I don't want to say the word lock, but that's the guy to look at, correct, Rinpack?
Yeah, he's definitely going to be the one you look at. At that same price, someone who played a ton of minutes against $100. I think in terms of ownership, pivoting to him is not the craziest thing to do.
Who did you say? It cut out for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said at that same price, Raul Neto.
Oh, okay.
Who played 36 minutes against Golden State. Shot out obviously very efficiently. I know Hachimura is still there, so I expect those minutes to be somewhat trickled into him. But Goodwin at that DraftKings price tag, got to have a ton of interest. It'll be interesting to see how many extra minutes Lou Will has to pick up. He has not played north of 30 minutes. He played 30 minutes once against the Pelicans. But Lou Will could get some extra minutes, obviously, with no Trae Young, some potential extra ball handling duty. But I don't know when Trae Young's going to return. They said it's going to take some time for it to recover. It's a grade 2 ankle sprain. So we'll see what ends up happening. How do you feel about a guy like Campazzo? 27 minutes last time out, plays very pesky defense on guys like Damian Lillard. It was very fun to see him just like try to body him up throughout the night. But now playing those minutes at that price tag, $4,400, $4,300 on DraftKings and FanDuel. How do you feel about Campazzo?
Yeah, I don't feel very good about it. I haven't really seen an upside. I think I'd want to get over 30 out of a 4,400 dude. I think Brandon Goodwin on DraftKings, 3,400, such an easy play. Allows you to pay up in some other places. He's close enough to the min where I think that's just going to be a hard place to avoid going to. But Campazzo, 4,300 on FanDuel. Maybe he can run into some stocks. He had 4 steals, 5 games ago? But I think you could say that for anybody who's going to be on a floor for 27, 30 minutes, that they can walk into a couple of those stats here and there. But that's about it for me. Anybody else? I think we're probably ready to move it along.
Yeah, I think that covers a lot on the point guard spot.
Yeah, and now we go to shooting guard. I'm jumping over to DraftKings. We're doing the inverse today. But Kyrie Irving's up there at 10-1. You can play him at shooting guard. Bradley Beal has small forward eligibility along with his shooting guard eligibility now on DK. Big news. Paul George, 9,300. Just completely insane without Kawhi Leonard there. But ended up getting his rest. Now he's going to go out and play Houston. Poor Houston. Good luck with that, guys. Terry Rozier in action here tonight, 8,700 against Cleveland. Probably not the best spot. McCollum, 8,600 against Memphis alongside Damian Lillard. Probably not. I wanted to get down to Bogdanovic, though. 7,800. Bagnon Bogdanovic in Atlanta being the guy. He is like the guy now for that basketball team to score the basketball. What is your interest level in him on DraftKings where he's shooting guard only at 7,800?
A lot. I like Bogdanovic quite a bit. I expect him to take 20-plus shot attempts at the minimum. He should be. He's their, I want to say, their best offensive shot creator right now with no Trae Young. They're going to have to rely on him. I guess Lou Will has to be mentioned. I know Lou Will's ancient, but Bogdanovic couldn't get his own bucket. So I like Bogdanovic quite a bit, but it is tough not to pay up for $9,300 Paul George against Houston. Paul George has been balling this year, and He's going to continue to ball against this Houston team, no questions asked. At that price tag on both sides, I will have a ton of interest in Paul George. Probably one of my favorite plays on the slate. No, it's not a hot take. I think it should be pretty common for people to say that. I think pivoting to a guy like Bradley Beal on both sides makes a ton of sense. He has a massive upside in a matchup versus Oklahoma City. And then I think we can consider it's tough in that range. Those two are the guys who's in that upper tier obviously stand out. Other guys that you can pivot off of from in a matchup versus Brooklyn, Marcus Smart, 6,900 seems expensive. Pure tournament play there. Shooting guard position is kind of not, it's kind of tough. And I think a guy who I've always been targeting with no Jamal Murray has been Will Barton. I think Barton, $5,500 on DraftKings seems like a solid play. Mid 30s minutes, is getting some ball handling duty, can create his own shot and matchup versus Golden State. I like going to Will Barton, and he's not out of play over there in Fanduel where we have to roster too. Definitely a option to consider there. On his same team, have you been riding this PJ Dozier experience as Mike Malone has? The sites have not pushed him over 4K as he continues to put up play over 20 plus minutes, put up 20 plus fantasy points. He's taking 10 shot attempts at that price tag. I'm going to have a lot of interest in Dozier yet again, a matchup versus Golden State.
I had a ton of interest in him 2 days ago now. So on Wednesday's slate. And then it kind of got eradicated because of all the super value we got from the Pacers, all the super value we got from the Clippers. I think on a 7-gamer, depending on how the news breaks out, I mean, going into this slate, it's the same way that I felt about him on Wednesday, where I thought he was one of the best pieces of value on the board the night before. And then he can kind of just get lost in the muck and in the shuffle if you get one of these like super value teams that kind of emerges where everybody rests, whether that, like was Detroit today or, as I said, the Pacers and Clippers 2 nights ago. So right now, I would obviously have a lot of interest in him. He's the exact same price as a guy like Svi Mikhailuk, who played 36 minutes and put up 39.75 in that Indiana game. So I'm kind of interested to see where ownership spreads out between those two, because Svi is never a super comfortable roster, but they had a bunch of dudes out as well. We'll see how some of that ownership kind of pans out between those two, but definitely like PJ Dozier, definitely somebody that's on my radar as well. I think shooting guard has some good cheaper options that you can be looking at to be punting. I think maybe not Desmond Bane on this slate, but yeah, PJ Dozier 3,800 down there on FanDuel as well. I don't like clicking this button. I don't think I will click this button, but Avery Bradley is 3,700 down there too. Houston against the Clippers, maybe like a mini revenge narrative, but that's just a punt. He's the cheapest that I think I would be willing to go over on FanDuel. So if it were something where my salary was zeroed out and Avery Bradley was the last guy in, maybe in 20 minutes, 22 minutes, he could get there on stocks or something, but hasn't been very involved for this Houston Rockets basketball team, but letting that be known. Anybody else? And then we'll move along.
No, I think we should move right along to the small forward spot.
Let's do it. Jimmy Butler, 9,300 on FanDuel. He's your most expensive guy who's playing with Kawhi Leonard out above him. Kevin Durant, 8,900. Again, upgraded, as you said, to questionable, so we'll see if he ends up giving it a go against Boston. That would be a very intriguing spot. Jaylen Brown sitting right below him as well. Also shooting guard eligible over on DraftKings, but he ended up not playing with that shoulder injury. He was doubtful today, ended up getting ruled out. We'll see what his status is going into tomorrow, because as of right now, we have no idea. But Brooklyn, 8,100 would be a decent enough spot for him. And then Bagnon Bogdanovic, 7,500. I think a nice little discount, $300 discount from the DraftKings pricing. Spot where you have to play two. Small forwards, not too bad. And Michael Porter Jr., we'll throw him in there too. Your boy disappointed the crap out of us the last 2 games. 43 minutes, 30.9 against Memphis in that double OT game. 30 minutes, 25 fantasy points. Didn't really do a whole lot in that fourth quarter either. Kind of disappointing, but we go back to the well there, right?
Yeah, and the thing with Porter Jr. is very scoring dependent. I know he can find his way to get some rebounds. And honestly, at that price tag, we want him to take high teens of shot attempts. It hasn't happened in a while. He needs to usually shoot efficiently, but there's a good chance he can take 20-plus shot attempts. And he's an amazing scorer and amazing shooter. So Porter Jr. on FanDuel, where we have to roster too, like that quite a bit. Same with Bogdan Bogdanovic, man, $7,500. He's going to take a ton of shots for this Atlanta Hawks team. Stays out of foul trouble. He should be able to find his way to getting there. just because of pure volume and scoring. I like going to him at that FanDuel price tag. Other guys who stick out over there in FanDuel, taking a look at, I don't expect Ken Bazemore to put up 50 plus fantasy points again. That was pretty bizarre. I think that was his career high in fantasy points. So it's gonna be something that we, I think, hop off of from as Kelly Oubre ramps up his minutes.
I do have to say that he projected abnormally well by Awesemo. Awesemo, whether it was Buzzard and Alex and the guys, whether they had a little meeting and said Kent Bazemore was going to go for 57.3. I have to say, out of anybody in the industry, they definitely had him the highest projected by far that I saw.
Oh yeah, and shout out to Neil Orfield who took down the big tournament on DraftKings. Just adding to his resume, a former Millie Maker winner, adding a big win to his DraftKings resume. Shout out to him who had Bazemore in his winning lineup. Alex had him everywhere. I was not as high on Ken Bazemore, but yeah, I missed out on the party. But he at $5,300, him and Oubre both played 35, 37 minutes. So I backtrack on what I said with Oubre playing more minutes. Oubre got up to 37 last time. So when they're playing that many minutes, they got to be in play just because they're active on many facets of the game where they can get steals and blocks in a hurry. Other guys who are in play and spending down over there in FanDuel, Lou Dort against Washington. Lou Dort has become a two-way player. Can I say one of the best two-way players in the league? No,
don't do that. Don't do that. I like the thought there, though. I mean, you tried to slide it in.
Heart attack.
Here's the thing. Lou Dort, they were just like encouraging him to shoot in the bubble. He got hot for that one game. Then everybody started backing off of him in the playoffs, and it was really entertaining. But there is something to be said about how good his defense is. He truly could make Bradley Beal or Russ Westbrook. I don't know who he'll be guarding. Probably Bradley Beal, you would think, the bigger guy. But he is kind of a difference maker on that end of the floor. Made a big difference against guarding James Harden as well in those bubble games. But the Arizona State connection, perhaps. But Lou Dort's a guy who's very, very entertaining to watch play basketball.
Yeah, and I think you got to give him a lot of credit. Just improving his three-point shooting in the offseason essentially has been really remarkable by him. Shout out to him. But Jaylen Brown, if you were to play $8,100, could definitely grab a solid upside. That's about it over there on FanDuel as they look over it in DraftKings. A lot of similar guys are in play that we covered. I think Kevin Huerter, another guy who's going to pick up a lot of potential usage with no Trae Young. Don't mind going to him. Kelly Oubre is too cheap, in my opinion, if he's going to play 36, 37 minutes at $5,800. And we talked about Barton in the shooting guard spot. Another guy for Denver who played extended in the sense of 29 minutes is Aaron Gordon. He's $5,300 in a matchup versus Golden State. There's going to be got to be a time where Aaron Gordon's going to play 30 plus minutes and he's going to erupt, and why not against Golden State? I don't mind that $5,300 Aaron Gordon small forward DraftKings price tag.
Yep, love it. Last guy to throw into the mix. I got to bring him up because he destroyed my happy lineups from 2 days ago. But Pokashevsky sitting there at small forward, 5,500 over on DraftKings. Apparently he was just sick. He had a rumbly in his tumbly and ended up only playing 5 minutes. But if you look at those box scores, I mean, 30 is kind of more of what we're projecting him for. He's a pretty decent fantasy point per minute player, can get a bunch of blocks, pretty high block rate. I wouldn't mind taking some shots there to get different, depending on what that OKC situation is. If Dort were in, that might be a different story. But if Dort's out, you could take some looks there. Let's move ourselves along to the top end of power forward here. We've got on the top end on DraftKings, Jason Tatum, coming off of being super, super disappointing tonight. $10,000. That's a bummer. Kevin Durant, power forward, $9K over on DraftKings there. Christian Wood, $8,300 going up against the Clippers. Kind of like seen those numbers come down of late because John Wall was in the picture here, and John Wall will probably continue to be in the picture, making it more difficult for him to get on top of some of those big upside games that we were looking for. And Miles Bridges is $8K, over under 1% owned tomorrow.
Oh, over for sure. And Miles Bridges is going to have all his family play, 100%.
Oh my God. Go ahead and talk about the top end of power forward.
Yeah, how do you not love Miles Bridges at that 8K price tag? It's just like amazing. Shout out to Miles Bridges. I mean, we got to play him at that price tag. Like, we'd be foolish not to play an 8K Miles Bridges,
Are
right?
you trolling?
I'm trolling right now.
Good, I love it.
But going to the power forward spot, Jason Tatum against Brooklyn. Even if Jaylen Brown plays, I like going to Tatum because of this Brooklyn defense. 10K, I think people will shy away from him. I don't mind it whatsoever. Christian Wood, at that price tag, if this game somehow stays close against the Kawhi-less Clippers, he's 8K over there on FanDuel, and he comes in. I also said he was 8,300 on DraftKings, so I like him on both sides. It's definitely a solid guy to consider. Draymond Green, both sides is still in play for me. They're going to need him to play a ton of minutes against this Denver team. There's going to be some Draymond at the 5 potentially. There's a lot of ways for Draymond to pay off that price tag in massive fashion. Other guys, Kevin Love against Charlotte. Charlotte will be on a back-to-back. Kevin Love hit that 30-point minute mark twice out of the 3 past games. And like I said, if Kevin Love is going to play 30 minutes, there is a way for him to put up 45 fantasy points. I know that it's not going to happen as frequently as it did earlier in his career, but he still has that in his bag. I don't mind going to Kevin Love. I know it's getting crowded there with the insurge, with Larry Nance returning, but I think he is still in play for the Cavs tomorrow in our lineups. And over there on FanDuel, going to be interesting to see what we hear with the Jaren Jackson situation. The guy put up 2 fantasy points per minute in 18, went for 36. He's an amazing blocks and steals guy. And he's also one of the best guys to rack up fouls in a hurry. Picked up 5 fouls in 18 minutes. So if you were to play, I guess, another 90 seconds, he was going to foul out. Yep. So essentially, they're going to play him until he fouls out. That's what his minutes limit. His minutes limit is the foul limit. So go with that. And there's a chance he could put up 40 fantasy points and pay off that 7K price tag against Portland.
Don't play Jaren Jackson Jr. Don't do that. 7K and 5,800 on FanDuel. Sure. Yeah, you can roll a dice on that, I suppose. But 7K, that's, I mean, he got pulled out at like the 4-minute mark. So I was watching that game. At the 4-minute mark, he got pulled out and didn't close. And so that basically told you 18 minutes was like his limit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think Davis Bertans cracked 30 minutes, and he's going to play a lot more minutes. No Denny Abdia, which is crushing for the Wizards and crushing for Denny himself. But Davis Bertans, both sides, I think, is definitely in play just because he can get hot and knock down 7 3-pointers. He has that within his player profile. So I don't mind going to Davis Bertans at that price tag, especially on DraftKings where you get that 3-point bonus.
I agree with you. I love that one. A little bit better than Jaren Jackson at 7K on DraftKings. I'm not gonna lie.
I was not being serious about Jaren Jackson for those who are listening. Triple J just fouls way too much, and he just is one of the most tilting players to roster. He just needs to figure out how not to foul it and play 30 plus minutes.
He's really good. Like, he's really, really good. Out of anybody in that 7K range, he's probably the best. The guy I want to pinpoint, and I'm curious what you think about him, John Collins. So we talk about how this is going to affect Brandon Goodwin and Lou Williams and these other guys who have upsides. If you need to get the ball in the bucket, I guess 7,200 on FanDuel isn't super interesting, but those minutes have been trending up here. On DraftKings, he's 6,800. And I just think, 21 minutes, 25 minutes, 28 minutes. If we were to get 30, 32 minutes of John Collins here at 6,800, they're going to need somebody who can score. We saw 15 rebounds 2 games ago. I would assume that's without Capella, but I don't know that for a fact. What do you think about him as kind of like a contrarian guy? Because I don't know what his ownership will be, but I'm guessing not as high compared to some of those other Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, I think going to Collins while he's low, taking some chances with him in tournaments is fine. I don't think it'll take much to get over the field. And you don't have to go like super over the field for that type of play, just because I don't think he'll be that owned in a matchup versus the Heat. There's a chance he could play 30 plus minutes and get there, just because over there in FanDuel where he can rack up the blocks in a hurry, he's fine. not that I have not much confidence right now. We're gonna have to see what Nate McMillan's press conference would say with the Trae Young injury. If he coach speaks of, we expect Collins to going. It's tough to really look into that. And the Miami matchup is not the greatest, but there's serious upside at that price tag for him to pay off. Other guys over there on DraftKings, I think Nurkic is too cheap, even though he's going to play high 20s minutes against Memphis. I like Yusuf Nurkic quite a bit at that price tag, $5,200 only. So just because he's not been since he came back from that injury and he hurt his wrist and then he hurt his calf, they've been cautious with his minutes. But I think they're on the way up. On both sides, 5,800. He's not out of play. I don't mind Nurkic at that price tag.
Nice. Yeah, let's jump over to the center position then. Let's round it out here. We got on the top end over there, but you just wanted to get out of here. You're ready to go. So Nikola Jokic 10,900. Clint Capella, again, he's got the questionable tag. We'll see if he plays or not. John Collins will not be sneaky if Clint Capella is out. I'm just letting that be known. But in the event that Capella is in, that will still be a place that I think I'll be interested in going. Christian Wood 8,300 on DraftKings there. Bam Adebayo is 8,200. Jonas Valanciunas is going to be out for Memphis, so I think this becomes a Xavier Tillman spot as well. That should be fascinating. Looking over at FanDuel, you have Jokic, you have Capella, you have Bam. Those are your three centers above 6,500 that are going to be active. It then drops off a cliff. Talk to me about center.
The opportunity cost is going to be Nikola Jokic, and that's a huge opportunity cost if you're not going to spend up over there on FanDuel to him. The matchup versus Golden State, I know it's not Wiseman defense. Kavon Looney can do a serviceable job of limiting a Jokic under 70 fantasy points. I think Looney can do that, but you're still going to love Jokic tomorrow for sure. No questions about that. I think Bam Adebayo, another great option at that price tag, $85 and $8,200 on FanDuel and DraftKings respectively. I like going to him against Atlanta. I don't have any issues with that as an option, but it doesn't feel like feel like you need to find a way to use your utility spot at center tomorrow, just because it's just Jokic. And then it's going to be interesting to see what Scott Brooks is going to do with Daniel Gafford. The guy has been a machine. All of a sudden, him and Russ Westbrook have this two-man game going. It's been fun to watch, and Gafford is a super, super productive fantasy player. He's also someone who can rack up fouls in a hurry. I don't expect Moses Brown to get Gafford that much on the defensive end, but I don't mind going to Daniel Gafford all the way at that price tag. And other guys who have an upside are guys like Jared Allen's going to have to find a way to get there at some point. He's not this bad. I know he said he's a step slow coming back from the concussion. So we'll see how that comes up. But I think we're buying low on Jared Allen. I think there's an upside within him in a matchup versus Charlotte. Outside of that, no one really. Tough to go to Zubac with George just going to hog all the shots in his return. But that's really about it on the center spot. It's Jokic and then all the way down to Gafford, but there's some guys like Bam and Nurkic in between.
Love it. Yeah, I really don't see Xavier Tillman, 4,600. He's center only now on DraftKings. I could take some shots there. Have no issue there. Kavon Looney, as you said, playing big minutes, played 26, 34, 26 his last three, so also under 4K. But he kind of goes in that same bucket as Gafford, who I think just because he's been so good of late here, hopefully he starts to get a little bit more run. 24 was a nice number to see in a close game. Happy to be going that direction as well. I think that about does it for us. Another week in the books, another showdown. And Rimpak, any final words for the people for the weekend? Words for the weekend.
Well, we're coming down the final stretch of April. There's going to be May, and the playoff race is going to intensify. Thanks so much for tuning in yet again. Another week of the NBA Slate Starter Podcast. Please do leave a review. Those go a long way for me and Eric to keep reappearing on these NBA Slate Starter pods. So definitely please do leave us a review, and we'll catch you next week.
99.8% of you are the absolute best. We absolutely love you guys. The 0.2%, hey, thanks for listening. We'll catch you later. Have a great weekend, y'all.